Well, good evening, everyone. Whether you're tuning in very close by to Boston College or from someplace around the world, we're glad you're joining us. This is part 6 of our 7-part look into Boston College virtual information sessions. When we came up with this idea, I wanted to do these virtual sessions, not just talking about, the granite that the buildings are made out of at Boston College. I really wanted to go into certain elements of life at Boston College and really invite some experts. I'm surrounded by experts on this Zoom call, talking about some part of Boston College that might be important for you to figure out. Tonight, we're going to be talking about academics, talking about the choices, we're talking about classes, we're talking about the people, we're talking about outcomes. We're going to talk about academics from beginning to end at Boston College. And while I didn't check the GPA to the 10,000th point of all our panelists, I know they've made a lot of good decisions. I know they've enjoyed their academic journeys at Boston College, and I know they have some pretty vivid stories about classes they've taken, professors they've had, and opportunities that they've had through academics. I'm your host. My name is Chris O'Brien. I'm Associate Director of Admissions, and I'll be guiding this conversation over the next 45 or 50 minutes, trying to weave in and out of some of the big issues in terms of academics at Boston College. And I'm going to introduce my guests shortly. If you'd like to participate, I'll try to get to your questions if they're good. If they're not that good, I'll use my own questions. But if they're good and interesting, and I never thought of those before, I'll probably jump on one of your questions and maybe claim it as my own. But I think we got a pretty good sense of what kind of things would be important to you, because this whole gang right here made a big part of their decision to come to Boston College based on how their academic questions were answered. So I'm going to have them introduce themselves right now, and we'll go around. Probably the easiest way might be to use the first letter of your first name and go alphabetically. Okay, so I'll let you guys figure out what that is. I know what it is, but we'll see if you figure it out. And let's see, an introduction will be who we are and where we're from in the country. Your year is in your little camera box, so we don't have to say what year you are. But if you can talk about your major and your academic program, what division you are academically, and then maybe just to finish the introduction, tell me what's been your favorite class at Boston College thus far. Just a 20 or 30-second overview of what that class was and why it was so important to you. And then after we've done some introductions, I'll start in with the questions. All right. So let's go. Who's going first?
Hi, everyone. My name's Elizabeth. I'm a senior in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences studying biochemistry on the pre-med track. And I have a minor in finance in the Carroll School of Management. I'm from Chapel Crown, New York. And a favorite class I've had at Boston College would be my Oppression and Change class. I took it freshman year, and we talked a lot about all different sorts of issues that are in the United States as well as the world. And I got to do it with a group of students who had experienced homelessness, ranging to very different backgrounds. So it was a really great way to really experience that diversity at BC.
And as you finish, Elizabeth, how about a quick question? I know a lot of people are interested in what the class sizes are at Boston College. Can you give us a little bit of an idea of, over the course of 3+ years, what the range of classes have been for you? Biggest, smallest, what's been the most typical?
Absolutely. So my biggest class at BC was about 275 students. It was my intro to physiology class. So that's really the biggest class I've ever had. Smallest class would probably be my freshman writing seminar, which was maybe 14 to 15 students. But most of my classes have been around like 30, I would say.
I was going through the alphabet in my head. I think it's me. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristen Cinquino. I'm a senior in the Carroll School of Management. I'm studying marketing and managing for social impact, and I have a minor in applied psychology in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development, and I am from New Jersey. My favorite class of all time, I constantly talk about it, and I am still in contact with this professor, is my business law class. It is a part of the Carroll School of Management core. So that means all of us who, no matter like what your major is, we had to take it. And Professor Thomas Wesner absolutely was a ray of sunshine in my life. He engaged all of us in the class, encouraged us to come to office hours. He continuously emails me and tells me I'm a rock star, just in case I forgot. He was such an impactful professor, always checking in on us and pushing us to think harder. And in fact, the Carroll School of Management does a dinner with professors, and I am taking him out to dinner, me and two of my friends. I'm actually going to cook us dinner here. And so absolutely love the professors here. It was an excellent class.
That's a good one. That's a good one. A very popular professor too. Again, to try to cover some nuts and bolts about life at Boston College when it comes to academics, can you go over really quickly how students register for classes? Like when you in just a short amount of time, you're going to be registering for your last semester of classes. How does it work? What happens? How do people register for classes? Just take us through the basic steps.
Sure. So this is a great question because I'm a teaching assistant for our first year students. So I was actually just helping them yesterday with registration. So we use something called Eagle Apps, and it is a database where you have all the classes, everything about it. And if you like a class, you're interested in it, you click the time you want. It's a little toggle button. You click it and you hit add to plan and review or quick register, and it will put all the classes that you want in a calendar view so you can see and kind of play around with it. And when it comes time to register, you'll be given a specific registration time and day. So seniors get priority, and then it will go to juniors, sophomores, freshmen, and you'll get a pick time within those 2 days of your specific class's registration time. You'll go on to Eagle Apps and you'll hit verify. You quick register. It is so much easier than a pass system we had. I still love the pass system, but the current system is a lot easier. So everything is set up for you previously, and all you have to do on the day of classes is just hit register.
Got it. And sorry to say that you'll be doing it for the last time very soon, Kristen. I'm sorry.
No, rub it in my face.
All right. Who's next?
I'm next. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Lucy Rubenstein. I'm also a senior at BC, and I am from Lake Forest, Illinois. My zip code is actually on the pillow behind me, which is kind of funny. Lake Forest is a suburb of Chicago. I am on the pre-dental track here at BC, and I'm majoring in applied psychology and human development in our Lynch School of Education and Human Development, with a minor in special education and a minor in a minor in biology in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. It's kind of a long intro, but my favorite class at BC so far has been health psychology in our Lynch School of Education and Human Development. I took this class as a part of my applied psychology major, and it's actually what made me realize the connection between what I want to do, be a dentist, and psychology, which is my major, because we really talked about that intersection between health and psychology. We learned about the relationship between the provider and the patient, why service animals may be important, kind of that psychological aspect in healthcare, and also just why our health is important, why we should take care of ourselves. So that's been my favorite class so far.
Thinking back of all your classes at Boston College, how many would you consider lectures? How many would you consider discussions? And how often did the lectures become discussions? So give us a sense of, all right, you're a college student, were a lot of your classes discussion based, or were a lot of them just teacher at the board, just reciting facts to you? How did it go for you in your career?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know Liz or Elizabeth can probably relate on this too, but being on the pre-med or pre-dental track, we often do at the start have those lecture heavy classes such as general chemistry or those introduction biology classes. But since those classes do tend to get a little large, they are required to break up into discussion sections. And what that means is once a week, I remember I had mine Fridays freshman year for my chemistry class. You meet with one of the TAs of the class, and the TAs don't teach the class. They just are simply there to help during your lecture. But once a week, you meet with them in a smaller group of about 20 students or so, and they can really help answer all your questions that you may not want to ask in the large lecture if you just are afraid to ask a question in that big of a group. So I know I got a lot of my questions answered in that smaller setting. But a lot of my classes in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development are a lot smaller. So those have been very discussion centered, which I've really enjoyed. So I do like having that mix of both since I'm pre-dental, but also in the education school.
We're running short. I think we're getting to the end here, but next.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Maggie Leahy. I'm a senior in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences, majoring in international studies with a concentration in conflict and cooperation. And I have a minor in the Carroll School of Management called Managing for Social Impact and Public Good. And I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. It was kind of hard for me to choose a favorite class because whenever I'm asked this question, there's always three that come to mind. But one of my three favorite classes would have to be my Introduction to International Relations class here at BC. That was probably one of the hardest classes required from my major that I had to take. But I met a lot of peers in that class. We kind of bonded over studying together. And even though the class was challenging, the professor, Professor Jennifer Erickson, provided a ton of support for us. So I went to office hours weekly. I also went to office hours for my TA, and I got a lot of support on papers. I learned how to do college readings better and take the main argument out of a reading, for example. And then also just generally, she cared about us as people too. So as I got to know her better throughout the semester, she would ask me how I was doing. I bumped into her on a walk across campus once as well. And she asked me how I was doing during midterm season. I said, good. And she said, okay, but how are you really doing? So she really cared about us as people in that class. And she's someone that I'm still in touch with today. I actually just got off a Zoom call with her before this to talk about what I'm thinking about post-grad. So that's my favorite class at BC.
Maggie, I'm impressed. Let's talk about something very basic, getting materials for classes. So you sign up for 5 classes. Are you expected to buy books? Is it a lot of online materials? Is it a lot of resources in the library? Is it a mix? How do you know what to get for your classes? So again, a very easy, like nuts and bolts thing. You sign up for 5 classes. What materials are you expected to get for your classes? How do you get them?
Yeah, so I think it kind of depends on the class. A lot of my classes, obviously as a humanities major, are very reading heavy. So for some, we might be required to buy a book. For some of the more economics focused classes that I've taken here at BC, sometimes that requires a subscription to like an online problem book where you like kind of turn your homework. But the way that you find that out at the start of every semester is after you've registered for classes, as Kristen kind of talked about earlier. You can go to the bookstore website and there's a place where you can kind of input all of your classes and it will show you what you're required to buy. I found that a lot of professors also have like gotten like a web page set up from the library as well. So you don't have to buy all of your books, which is really helpful because it can get a little expensive sometimes, especially if it's a reading heavy class. But yeah, so there's a kind of a good mix of library resources, books, which you can get from the bookstore, very easy to see what you need for your classes from the bookstore website. And yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Maggie. And last but not least, Stephen, let's hear from you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen Harrison. I am the sole junior in this Zoom call, it looks like. I'm majoring in communication and minoring in math in the Morrissey College of Arts and Sciences. And I'm also minoring in marketing in the Carroll School of Management. I'm from just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So game 3 of the World Series right now. Phillies are going on. I have a split screen. No, I'm just kidding. I do not. But I brought my Philly Fanatic pillow pet back there as well. So very proud of my Philadelphia background. Very, very much rooting for the Phillies. My favorite class, I don't think I've ever said this is my favorite class ever, but upon some reflection over the past few minutes, I have to say that I think my favorite class experience was a class I took last semester, multivariable calculus, which I'm sure not many people will relate to with saying that's the favorite class. But and I'm sure this is going to sound like extremely nerdy to people who are not interested in math, but I thought it was really cool going from learning about calculus in 2 space into 3 space. So like XY to XYZ, I thought was really cool. So overall, learning the information was really cool. But also I was able to form a great study group with some people I'd never met before. So we would get together before every exam and we'd go over all the problems and we'd study. And by the end of the semester, we became such great friends that when we're studying for finals, we'd like go out and get pizza after. And after our final, we went to White Mountain, which is like the ice cream shop right off campus. So we became really close and we're still friends this year too. So the class is really interesting. It was obviously multivariable calc. Calc 3 is really difficult, but it was a really fulfilling and rewarding experience. The material is interesting and I met some great people as well. So I think that was really fun.
Yeah, I'm processing that whole multivariable calculus thing, Stephen. I can't say that that would have been top of my list, but good for you. Good for you. I think you explained it pretty well. Have you ever used a system, and I think every school has a system like this, where you can see reviews of professors if you're about to take classes? Like, can you talk a little bit about how that works? Because if you want to take multivariable calculus, there may have been 3 or 4 options in terms of professors or times. And how do students at Boston College get to talk about the professors they had, to leave positive reviews? And how can a student, when they're registering for a class, figure out which teacher might teach this in a way or have exams in a schedule that I like? What kind of system exists at Boston College?
Yeah, so I also forgot to mention this as well, but my professor for this class was also amazing, Ellen Goldstein. I'm like waiting for her to teach something else that I'm eligible to take because I love her so much and the way she taught. But really, as I'm kind of making my plan for next semester in terms of classes, you might have heard of ratemyprofessor.com. That's something that I use a lot because it really gives like specific and detailed feedback of a lot of the professors here at Boston College. And some of those who might have like lower scores, I might shy away from. But also we have our own course evaluations here that kind of create their own kind of Rate My Professors Boston College edition, which you'll have access to with your BC student account. So you type in a professor's name and it'll tell you how they're rated out of 5 stars, how how assignment heavy their course is, all those kind of things that you can use to kind of select the professor that's best for you.
All of you guys have to study. Where do you study? Lucy, where do you study?
So I personally like to study in my room. Actually, I know some people like to go to the library, or we have a lot of other places on campus, but I like my room just because I know it's going to be quiet. My roommate, she's student teaching this semester. She's a secondary ed major, so she's usually gone the whole day. So I kind of have the room I like nice and quiet, but we also have another library here called Bapst Library. That's like the silent library. People compare it to like, they call it the Harry Potter library. So I like to go there. I'm someone who needs nice and quiet, and it's a very beautiful place to look at when you're studying.
When you were all in high school, you probably studied a different way. You probably got graded a different way. You probably succeeded in a different way. What's the main, Elizabeth, think about you as a student in high school and you as a student in college. What's the big difference? Or maybe there's more similarities and differences, but is it more different than the same with studying in college? And if so, how would you explain the difference between how you succeeded, how you got grades in high school, and how you succeed and how you get grades in college?
That's a really good question. I think, so I went to a public high school, but it was one of the I don't know, it was rated at some point as one of the best in the country. So we did get a lot of very advanced teachers. So I would say in terms of course load, it was pretty similar to a college experience that I've had here through like AP classes. But I think the biggest difference is that in high school, we were mostly graded on understanding the concepts. So we'd take tests, and the test was, do you know it? Do you not know it? And I think in college, a lot of it is more based on, do you understand the concepts? And then can you apply it to some sort of other aspect? So for myself, since I'm in a lot of the pre-med classes, it's, do you understand the biology and the chemistry basis? And then can you get given this information about a random disease and figure out what role it might play? So I think that's the biggest jump in difficulty, is going from not just trying to learn and understand the content yourself, but be able to apply it to like unknown settings.
That's a great answer. And Maggie, sort of continuing on that, like, is it hard? Like like, are the expectations high? Is BC tough? And do you feel that the environment that you are a student in is one that's conducive to more study groups and like, let's all team up and beat multivariable calculus together, than just worried about me getting the best grade in variable calculus? Do you think that, yeah, it's tough, but there's room for collaboration? Or is it competitive? Because I'm sure, at some colleges, even some high schools that people are tuning in now, the academics are pretty competitive.
Sorry, I didn't unmute at first. So that's a really good question as well. I would say from my own experience, I found BC to be a little bit more collaborative. It's certainly rigorous and challenging. Like, my classes have not been easy. But as I mentioned before, I've felt a lot of support from professors. And then I've also been able to form a lot of study groups in classes. So in my international relations class that I talked about before, leading up to the final exam, I had like a study group of 5 people, and we met for 3 days to prepare for it, kind of exchanging notes, bouncing ideas off of one another. And then even for just something like writing a paper, I found that a lot of my professors encourage students to bounce ideas off of one another, because you can really learn from a lot of your classmates as well. You're not just going to learn from the professor necessarily, especially in a lot of discussion-based classes. So I found the environment to be collaborative. Certainly, I think I can be competitive with myself sometimes, and just like high achieving, but I think overall the environment is more collaborative at BC.
And Kristen, what happens when a BC student runs up against an immovable object? I don't understand this concept. I keep getting 51s on these quizzes. I don't know what you're talking about, Professor Johnson. Like, when students are looking for academic support, and maybe it's happened to all 5 of you. What kind of things do BC students do? What kind of resources are at BC? But what are the things that you've done, your friends do? You've run into a tough problem in a class. What do you do?
So I have been in that situation. My finance class kicked my butt, but I was consistently not doing well on quizzes. I talked to my professor, and we have something called the Connors Learning Center, and it's on the 2nd floor of the library, O'Neill, the big library on campus. And it is a part of your tuition. Everything's included. It's tutoring for every class you can imagine. You go on to like their website and you sign up for an hour-long session. You can go as much as you want. So I met with the same woman twice a week for a few weeks to go over some finance stuff. And I watched myself grasp the concept so much better. So we have that. You can go to office hours. A lot of the professors will actually encourage you to go and just chat with them, but you can also sit and do work. I used to sit in, my professor Jernigan was my business statistics professor. I used to sit with her for every Friday for an hour and just do the homework. And we were just quiet. And if I had a question, I'd ask. So teachers are there for you. And we have a specific tutoring center as well.
Thanks, Kristen. And now let's talk about some of the nuts and bolts of Boston College. You can't come to Boston College and take 40 courses in accounting and graduate. There are requirements, a core curriculum, we call it at Boston College. And there's a lot of philosophical reasons that this university has a core curriculum, which date back to our Jesuit heritage. And we can talk about that if you like. But whether we were Jesuit or not, that's what the requirements are at Boston College. So Stephen comes to Boston College and he can't just take 40 courses of completely his own desires. He needs to fulfill some requirements. So Stephen, can you talk a little bit about this core curriculum? Recite it as best you can, and you don't have to go through every one, I suppose. But talk about what value, if any, is added to your academic career at Boston College.
Yeah, so just as a general overview, the core curriculum is, I believe, 15 courses in 10 different subject areas. So I'm going to try. Okay. Natural science, social science, math, art, history, cultural diversity, literature, writing, theology, philosophy. There we go. So those are the 10 core subject areas that we have here. And there's a variety of different ways that you can fulfill these courses. So you can take individual courses for each core requirement, or your freshman year, you're allowed to take courses that they offer for only freshmen called complex problems and enduring question courses. So these are 6 credit courses in a semester. that combine two or more different core requirements, and they're co-taught by two professors in often disparate subject areas. So for instance, I took a course the first semester of my freshman year called Making the Modern World, Design, Ethics, and Engineering. And that was a course that combined History 2 and natural science. So it was a physics-based course, which is where the natural science came in, but we also talked about different aspects of history with engineering as well. So we looked at different cases where with engineering failures or the ethics behind engineering, things like that. So that was a really interesting course. It fulfilled both my natural science and history 2 core requirement. And then the next semester, we actually were notified that it also fulfilled our cultural diversity requirement without us even knowing. So that was nice. But in addition to complex problems and enduring questions courses, there are also ways to fulfill your philosophy and theology core requirements. So a common way people do that is a freshman course called Perspectives on Western Culture. It's kind of your nitty-gritty philosophy, theology overview. I can't say much about it because I didn't take it my freshman year, but it's a 12-credit course that lasts the entire year, and it'll fulfill both your philosophy and both of your theology core requirements. Another way students tend to fulfill their philosophy theology core is a course typically taken by sophomores called Pulse. And I'm taking it now. I'm kind of against the norm, I guess, taking it as a junior. But it's kind of half of that in-class experience is learning about famous philosophers, ancient theologians, reading the Bible, learning about Socrates, things like that. And then the other half of the course is spent 12 hours a week at a service placement in the city of Boston. So actually today I just came back at 6:15 from my service placement. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I go to a school in Jamaica Plain in Boston called Nativity Prep. It's a tuition-free school, middle school for 5th through 8th grade boys. So I go after school and help them with their homework. I was helping one kid with like solving equations today, which was very fun because then I get to come back to my insanely complex problems, which I have the confidence to do because I helped someone solve equations earlier in the day. But that's really fun as well. We get to help them after school, and then we get to eat dinner with them and kind of create a bond with them, which is really nice. So that's another way that students will fulfill their philosophy and theology core requirements.
Thanks, Stephen. That was well done. And it's also important to note that students who have AP exams in some of these areas can fulfill these core requirements before they even get here. So a student who has a 5 in AP calculus, despite the fact that they could continue on to multivariable calculus if they wanted to that much at Boston College, Stephen, they would already fulfill the math requirement and not need to. They would just do that because they really liked multivariable calculus, which is probably the category that you're in. So let's talk a little bit about, and we've all kind of alluded to a little bit, but let's talk about professors. Elizabeth, were you very nervous about college professors when you were a high school student? Did you hear the stories or watch the TV shows where they were aloof and they didn't care? And now you've come to realize that maybe they do care a little bit, and maybe they actually do want me to get good grades, and maybe they are behind me when I'm applying to medical school. Have you been pleasantly surprised or even maybe beyond that in terms of your relationship with professors at BC?
Absolutely. I was just nervous in general coming to college. If I'm being completely honest, I didn't know fully what to expect. And professors were a big part of that. I didn't know if they were going to be nice and like kind of feel like a mom and dad figure, or if they were going to just like laugh at me if I didn't do well. Obviously, I hoped they wouldn't, but that was kind of how I felt, that I was unsure. And coming to BC, these professors care so much about the students. And it's so clear just in the way that they teach. They're not just experts in the field, but they care a lot about you. And I'll see someone goes missing in class for a week, maybe some sort of mental health reason, or maybe they're really sick. And the professor will kind of reach out to that kid to make sure that they're doing all right and see if that there's anything they can personally do to make their life a little bit easier. And I always like to say that I actually told Chris the story the other day that when I was a freshman, right around Parents' Weekend, I got really sick and had a fever, was not doing well. And I had to go to the health center. And along my journey to the health center, I fainted. And these 2 students, no clue who they are to this day, they picked me up and they carried me there. And that's what the kids are like here at BC. And then when I got to the health center, I emailed my professors and I had midterms in their classes. And I was just hoping that they would understand and let me take it a couple days later, something like that. And instead, I got Powerade, Tylenol, and cookies sent to my dorm because my professor said it's your first time sick at college and you don't have your mom there to help you. So she wanted to be that figure for me. And that's what the professors are like here. They want to help. They want to get to know you through office hours, like I think Maggie and Kristen had mentioned. I've actually been to professors' houses and met their dogs and their kids. You really get to know them on that personal basis, which is then so helpful for those who are on the pre-professional track or who are just looking for careers post-college, because you get to know them and they're there to provide resources and connections that they have with different universities or colleagues to help you get to that next stage. So the professors here are definitely more like family members, in my opinion, than just kind of strangers.
And talked about Professor Wesner and having that relationship with him. And I'm sure there are others. Maggie talked about Jen Erickson, someone I know pretty well is at Boston College too. And Stephen, I mean, it just comes to pass that you make these relationships. You're interested in the subjects they teach. These are their vocations. The connections are right there. I'm glad that BC doesn't get in the way and allow you guys to make those connections because like you said, Elizabeth, it's helpful for you for the next step, but for everybody, it's helpful as they sort out very adult decisions about what career field to go into or how to make these big decisions as you get older. And I'm glad you guys all have found those academic professional mentors that are going to be pivotal to you over the next few months and Stephen for the next year to get you to the next step. Now, turning the page a little bit, I do want to cover a couple more things before I open it up to some of the questions that are in the queue. We're a research university at Boston College, and we do try to give students an opportunity to get involved in undergraduate research while they're with us, whether that's through academic credit, through stipends, through just, again, encouraging students to make those connections in the classroom and beyond. If any of you have been involved in research, could one or two of you talk about that, how you made that connection and how you think that's deepened your understanding of what it is that you've studied or what it is that you might want to do after graduation?
I can start on that. Oh, sorry, Maggie. So I started doing research last year, my junior year, and I remember coming into college, I thought research was just looking under a microscope. That's what I thought research was, but I didn't realize research could be so much more than that in practically any subject area. So I reached out to Jill Pickner, who is a really great woman within the Lynch School of Education and Human Development. She's one of our advisors, and I asked her if she knew of any professors that were looking for undergraduate students to help with their projects. And right away she said, "Oh yes, I have a professor who was just asking, and I think you'd be perfect." So she set him and I up. His name is Dr. Eric Deering. He's awesome. And I was able to go 10 hours a week. You can usually choose if you want it to be a paid position or count for class credit. And I was able to do it paid, which was really awesome. And I went 10 hours a week to schools. They're called Head Start centers. So a lot of the times they're in underprivileged areas. And I went 10 hours a week to go and look at these math workbooks that Eric and his team developed. And I watched how the kids interacted with them and read them and did the games within the workbooks. And I was given an iPad to use to watch every move these students made. So I would like look at them for 3 seconds, and then I learned how to like code and everything. It was really cool and really see what was going on. And every week we'd meet as a research team with people from other universities and Boston College. And it was a really cool experience to build your resume and also to have a really good time and do something you'd probably never do. So I thought it was cool. I got to do something within our education school. So I really enjoyed research here.
Yeah, I think similarly to Lucy, before coming to college, I kind of had an elementary conception of what research was. So I always pictured like a white lab coat, like chemicals and beakers, very like STEM oriented. And as Lucy mentioned, like there's definitely more STEM oriented opportunities here at BC. But even as a humanities student here, I've been able to also get into research here. So the way that I was able to get involved was actually, this brings me to one of my other favorite classes at BC that I've taken. But I took a class called Natural Resource Politics last semester in the spring. taught by Professor Lauren Honig. And at the end of the class, she sent out an email to our entire class asking if any of us wanted to be research assistants for her for the summer. And I had loved that class. It kind of was the perfect combination of two of my central interests as an international studies major, which was international human rights policy and international climate policy. And so I immediately saw the email and I was like, yes, I want to do this. And so over the summer, I was able to help her do research on land rights and development and politics in Malawi, Burkina Faso, Senegal, and Zambia. And I was able to help her do lit reviews. I reviewed a manuscript of one of her books for her, making sure that the edits were correct. And then I also was able to help her write a policy memo that she presented to a trip to Malawi over the summer, which was really cool, to some of the local governments there. So that was really cool. And kind of similarly to Lucy, it was kind of cool to see like your education, like what you learned in the classroom and some of its real world applications through research.
So now you're an expert at Burkina Faso politics and social issues. Is that it?
Yeah, and maybe Malawi a little bit.
And Malawi, yeah, perfect. So research is something that we certainly encourage a lot of our students to get involved in. The university also encourage a lot of students to maybe go beyond the Boston area. While we love Chestnut Hill and Boston, and maybe take advantage of our international partnerships overseas. And certainly I know when we're on campus doing these information sessions, one of the first questions out of the crowd is, where can I study abroad? And I'm so worried about getting people interested in coming to BC, and they're so interested in leaving BC. But I get it. It's like a once in a lifetime thing. So can one of you talk a little bit about the study abroad program at BC, a little bit about the process, and then sort of what value it brought you? I mean, other than just the fun side, maybe there's some things that you feel like it's helped you in sort of understanding where it all fits together. So I know at least one of you have done study abroad. Can you talk about it?
Yeah, so I just got back. I was in Barcelona, Spain for the spring semester last year. So it was so much fun. I was the same student. I was like, how was the BC study abroad programs? Because I knew I wanted to study abroad as a junior. And so BC has a really strong like study abroad office. It's the Office of Global Education. And we have specific BC programs. If there's a BC program, or there's a program that you don't like, or there's a location that we don't have, but we literally have everything, then you can do an external program. That's no problem. But on the BC side, there's so many different places you can visit, so many different programs. A lot of the programs you can make them connect to what you're studying. So I did BC in Barcelona, business and culture. And the way it was structured was, first of all, I had help from, shout out to Patrick O'Donnell. He was the Barcelona advisor. He said, you fill out these forms, you bring this to me by blah, 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 blah. I had my visa mailed to me in a month. It was so easy, absolutely incredible resource. The program was designed so that I got credit for all like 15 credits. That's what I needed for the semester. And I was able to knock out an international marketing elective and an operations management elective, like, which is a part of the Carroll School of Management core. And then I was able to take 2 other classes at the host university that I had what's it called? Accepted. Oh my goodness. I had accepted for my applied psych minor and my managing for social impact co-concentration. So you will have a program designed for you, specialized in what you kind of need. And you're going to have a big support team that's going to like follow you throughout your journey. I had a program director from Barcelona. She was like our mom. Her name was Teresa, and I absolutely called her Mother Teresa. We all did. She took us on trips. She was in constant contact with home. When I lost my phone, I went to Barcelona and lost my phone. We're going to talk about it. She was my resource for me. She would talk on the phone. When some of my friends had to go to the doctor, she would call and help them because they didn't speak Spanish. So absolutely incredible resources. BC is a really strong study abroad program.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kristen. And we did want to talk about preparation for graduate school in this program. And both Lucy and Elizabeth talked a little bit about their plans. And I'm not saying that Maggie and Kristen, you can't go to graduate school. You can still make that decision, but I certainly know that you've talked about it and it's been part of your preparation all through school. So one or both of you can talk a little bit about how you've been advised, how you've been prepared, what steps you've taken. If you could talk a little bit about what pre-health advising has been like and how you feel like you're prepared for the next step. Why don't you go first, Elizabeth?
Sure. There has been advising from pretty much every corner of BC in my experience. Starting out here, freshman year, I was assigned an advisor. This wasn't a major specific advisor because at that point I hadn't decided on what I was studying. So I actually had a music professor as my advisor. And so he helped me kind of go through my classes and figure out what I was interested in, how to fit the core curriculum into my schedule, all of those topics that I hadn't really thought about too much before coming to BC. And then once I declared my major as biochemistry, I got switched to the biochemistry department. And so my professor, Rebecca Dunn, has done a fantastic job, always spending time just to sit down with me and pretty much plan out my 4 years at BC my freshman year to make sure that I'd be able to fit everything in that I both was required to take, but as well as classes that I just was really interested in and wanted to take. Then the pre-health office was a whole nother bubble of advising where I was always able to email them and ask for an appointment, and they'd get me an appointment within the week, even though it was never urgent, but they always made sure to fit in time for me. And going there, honestly, I know medical school can be a very stressful process, but they always make me feel so much better about it. They really do. I go there and I talk. My favorite advisor is Miss Simmons, because I'll talk to her and afterwards I'll come out and I'll feel like I can do it and I will get in. It's all going to work out. And they're very realistic though. They tell you like, here's what you have, here's what you need more of. They'll help you through MCAT, the committee process here at BC, to get that recommendation letter that BC as a whole recommends you, as well as your specific advisors or whoever you choose to write you rec letters. So they talk you through all of that, picking schools, pretty much everything you can imagine with that process, they have covered and they lay it out for you very detailed. This way you don't miss a single step. The other main factor of advising that I've received is through the Mendel Society, which is BC's pre-med society. So it's completely student run. I'm actually a mentor in it now. So I run groups for freshmen and sophomores and I'll kind of help them through their process. But when I was going through it, the upperclassmen at the time would kind of sit down with me and talk to me about which professors they liked, which classes were super helpful, what they wish that they had known earlier, which is a huge thing. Like I talk about that with my kids all the time, telling them what, if I could start right now and start from the beginning, here's what I would have done differently. So just getting that student perspective, kind of the advising perspective, and then the pre-health perspective, I feel like there's so much advice floating around.
That's great, Elizabeth. Lucy, things you want to add to that?
Liz covered everything I wanted to cover. You did a great job. But I guess one thing to add is, like she was saying with the clubs, if you do want that advice from the undergrad students, there are so many. We have a bunch of pre-professional clubs. So I know I'm in the pre-dental society. I know some of my friends are in the physical therapy club or the occupational therapy club, vet club. So there's a lot of ways to get advice, but the pre-health office is absolutely amazing. As she was saying, Mrs. Simmons is also my advisor too, and she's made me feel so comfortable and ready since my freshman year. And now I'm in the process of applying and interviewing at dental schools. And I just feel so supported from then till now and in the future.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. And talking about like professional clubs and organizations, I looked to someone in the Carroll School, Kristen, is that there's a ton of clubs that are in that are affiliated with the Carroll School. And I'm sure they're talking career resources to you all year long. I'm sure you're getting inundated with email blasts and information sessions and things like that. You would feel as a senior in the Carroll School, you're getting what you need in terms of career advice, exploration. You feel like, whatever the next few months, whatever course it takes you, you feel like you're getting prepared and you have those things right at your fingertips.
Yes, absolutely. There's an email that gets sent out weekly. It's like, Carroll this week, and it's all the events that are running. There's so many different kinds of clubs. I was a part of one. It was called Consultants for Social Impact, where we worked with different nonprofits around the greater Boston area. And we did kind of like consulting work for them. And it was so cool. And then when I headed the club, I was like, I kind of want to incorporate more conversations about like social impact and consulting and marketing. And so I had an incredible group of people, and we were all having these incredible conversations on how we could be better managers for in the future. There's another one called the American Marketing Association. And that one is like I believe it's a national club with a Boston College chapter. Well, they'll have panelists come in and speak to the club just about marketing careers. There's so many different like emails that I get. You're so right. And all the like awesome information. There was just a BC alum. She is a co-founder of, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Cured, but it's like a charcuterie business. And there's a BC incubator program. And with them, they won this contest through like the Entrepreneurship Center. And through this incubator program, they were able to buy their first store in Boston. Like these are BC students, like actual entrepreneurs, like, and BC supporting them. So yeah, Carol, they have you here. You're coming here. The community has you.
Good stuff. Thanks, Kristen. Stephen, you helped me out before when we were kind of plotting our way through the core curriculum to get people to graduate. A couple of questions came up in the Q&A about double majoring, taking courses outside of this division or school that you're in. And I mean, how many people do we know that have a minor here and a major in another school, or have two minors in two different places? Talk a little bit about how that works, whether it's your plan or your friend's plan or people that you've talked about. Like, who do they talk to? How does it work? Is it easy to make it all work? Are there rules against it? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was a lot of questions, but I'll try and answer all. To start off, I just want to say that I don't think I know a single person who has like just a single major, except for anybody who's in nursing. Like everybody always has like a double major or a major and a minor or something like that. So, and like I said, I'm majoring in the College of Arts and Sciences. I'm minoring in the Carroll School of Management. So it's very easy to minor in other schools. In terms of kind of my story, I guess, at Boston College, I came in completely undecided in the College of Arts and Sciences, picked up communication major my second semester here. But before I did that, I was kind of wondering if I was interested in doing something with education. So I took a bunch of classes or 2 classes in the Lynch School of Education and Human Development. And obviously now I take classes in the Carroll School of Management, both of which are outside my school. And if I really wanted to, there are a few select courses I could take in the nursing school, which I will not elect to take, but I could make that a quadfecta, I guess, if I wanted to. So it's definitely very easy to take classes in other schools and interact with students in other schools as well. It was really interesting having classes in the Lynch School, taking classes with students I don't normally take classes with. I had classes with a bunch of Lynch friends who I've never had class with before, so that was very interesting. What was the next question? I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember a lot here.
No, you did such a great job, Stephen. That's plenty. That was good information.
Okay.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay, sure.
Maggie, let me ask you this. You know, if in the last 3 years you become a better student, how would you like look back on it and say, this is how I became a better student? You know, you're a really good student in high school. You 3 years of college classes, of research, of these great conversations you've had inside and outside the classroom. How are you a different student now than you were before?
That's a really good question. I think that what it came down to for me was getting better at managing my time. So I think when you come to college and even in high school, like I had a lot of extracurricular commitments that I was doing in high school. I was big into ballet, piano, community service, and I was having to balance all of those. But, you know, you have like a very structured school day. And then I had like my time after school to like do homework. At college, you don't have school for the entire day. You might have a class for a couple hours and have like a free chunk of time and then another class. And then after like 5 o'clock, you might start having a ton of different clubs and involvement. So for me, that became the Heights, the newspaper at BC, Model UN, SAP, etc. Now Arupe as well. So that's just 5 of like the over 300 clubs and organizations that we have here at BC. There's a lot that you can get involved with. And I think managing my time and making sure that I had time to study was something that I had to learn and strike a balance as I got older at BC. So freshman year, it was a little bit harder. I kind of wanted to do everything, same with sophomore year. But then as I got older, I learned how to like, have time to study with friends, when I needed to go to the library to like grind out a paper by myself without anyone there and get a cubby. And you kind of learn that about yourself as college goes on, I would say.
Out, and any of you can answer this one or not, but you guys are kind of like, Stephen, you're not quite in the senior year yet, but the seniors, like, you're about to realize like your goal. Like, you wanted to go to medical school, Elizabeth, you're on the brink. Lucy, here you are applying to dental schools. Maggie, Kristen, like all the things you've learned, all the partnerships you made, the network, Barcelona research, like, we're there. But maybe you were nervous about this when you were a senior in high school. Maybe now that you have been, around all this experience and wisdom and people, is there any advice you can give to these people that are starting this process in senior year and want to get to these places that you want to get to, but they're nervous, they're anxious, not just about getting into college, but about like balancing their time, or about sticking through the tougher courses, or about knocking on the door of Professor Wesner and knowing that he'll be interested in talking to you? For all 5 of you, is there any piece of advice that you can give to all these people that, I'm sure if they're paying attention to this, they're pretty smart, they're interested in BC, how can they not be smart? What's the advice you can give them to ensure that they're on the right path to having success when they get to college? Does anything come up to any of you guys?
Just as the junior here, I'll start before we get into all the senior answers. I'd say I'm still nervous. So like, obviously, as a senior, you're probably, I was definitely as a senior, like, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. I don't even know what I want to major in. I don't know how I even want to get started. Now I'm nervous, but I've narrowed down my options. I've became a little less nervous. So it really is like, the advice I have to give is, even if you don't know where you're going, even if you don't know like what path you have to take or where you want the path to lead, it gets easier when you're in a community that really facilitates that kind of allowance to grow. So when you figure out your major, if you're undecided, like I said, completely undecided, when you start taking classes here, you'll start figuring out what you really enjoy. When you're surrounded with people who are really passionate about what they want to do, it'll get you start thinking about what you really are passionate about. So it's definitely like, I was really, really, really nervous coming in. And like I said, I'm still a little nervous. I really don't have a set, concrete, specific plan yet, but I'm definitely more on the track to knowing exactly what I want to do, more so than 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but even last year, even 6 months ago. Like, you're always growing here in terms of your end goal and your academic performance. So yeah, that's what I want to say before all the seniors answer.
Wisdom or advice to the people that are, again, anxious to set their sights on their academic path and get to the goals that you guys are so close to? What advice would you give them?
So this is something that, I'm sorry, Lizzie. This is something that my mom told me my freshman year, and it's something that I told my freshmen 2 weeks ago. I told them, you don't have to get married, have 2.5 kids, and live in a house with a white picket fence all by the end of your freshman year. And the first thing I said to my mom when she told me that was, you can't have 2.5 kids. She was like, Kristen, you missed the point. The whole point is, you're not like, it is, you don't have to rush into things. Like, this is a really exciting part of your life. Like, you don't know where you're going. You're going somewhere. Like, I'm on my way. You don't have to know where you are going right now. Like, this is the time for you to explore your interests. That's what the core is for. It's a way for you. It's an encouragement for you to go out and figure out what you like. I didn't figure out what I wanted to do until I took a class this semester. And it was a marketing class. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do consulting. I still don't have a concrete, like, I have a plan, but I'm still working towards it. But things change, like, and you just have to be willing to go with it. So my biggest piece of advice, if you don't remember anything I said today, was just to breathe and don't rush things because good things take time.
I can go. Bouncing off of that, I know when I was in high school, like at all the parent teacher conferences, they'd always tell my mom, like, oh, Lucy asked so many questions. And I always took that as a good thing because I do always like to ask questions. So I know up until this day, I'm always asking questions. I remember when I got into BC, the first thing I did was I reached out to a girl who went to my high school who was a student at BC, and I started asking her things, and she connected me to other BC students who were maybe interested in what I was interested in. And I started talking to them. The pre-health office, I remember I set up an appointment the first week of school just because I was very nervous and anxious, and they helped calm me down. But I guess we're all still figuring out what we want to do. We're all still on our paths, but just keep being curious and asking questions, because that's what got me to being a senior. I can't believe we're seniors now, and Stephen a junior.
I met you asking all those questions too, so I can corroborate your story. This has been sensational. For those of you that tuned in, boy, you've been treated to such wisdom and experience from some experts at Life at Boston College. So for the 5 of you that have joined us tonight, I can't thank you enough. And on behalf of all the people that tuned in, they thank you as well. You were nice enough. All of you have your email addresses in your little camera box there. They welcome your questions. If we didn't go into something in enough detail for you, reach out. They'll be happy to help with a question. Thanks for tuning into this. We have one more of our 7-part series next week. Next week is Eagles in Action. We talk about varsity, club, and intramural sports. So that should be interesting. None of you were invited. How come? Aren't you guys all legends on the intramural fields? And no,
I'm on
okay,
4
well,
teams.
that's fine.
On 4 teams this session: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Well, here I thought you were just about multivariable calculus. I'm glad to hear that you're doing something else, Stephen. That actually made me happy. But again, thanks for tuning in to all these sessions, and thanks for your interest in Boston College. We're glad. Hopefully, this helped you. I know it's been very informative and entertaining as well tonight. So thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you all again. Good night, everybody.